Let's get ready to rumble!
Oh, hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that has discovered this week that the rumors of the death of the Grey Pound might be very much unfounded. My name is Tosin and I am your host. I am based up in the Midlands of the UK, and joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And making a special guest appearance,
Hey.
he heard his public baying for our blood because he wasn't around. It's Shaun Harris, all the way from Bangkok.
Hey!
Shaun, what time is it there over now?
And now it's about 1:15 in the morning.
1:15 in the morning. So, Shaun, we'd like to thank you. You've heard people baying. You've heard them asking Sharon and I what we've done with you.
Where's Shaun?
Yeah, where's Shaun? What have you done with Shaun? I've noticed that Shaun has been around for a couple of weeks. Why is that? You've heard that I've decided to show up and actually, let everybody know that you're okay. Let everybody know that you're okay and that Sharon and I didn't do anything weird with you.
Yeah, we haven't had you. You haven't taken out a hit on you or anything.
Well, yeah,
No.
let's put it this way: you've heard of Peng Shuai, and everybody going, "Where is Peng Shuai?" We don't have to have a "Where is Shaun" t-shirts made up, all right? Because
Yeah.
Shaun is here, Shaun is talking, Shaun is not being coerced to say anything nice about us. So, yeah,
Wow,
but
I mean, everything is nice about you, so you can't really say any more, can you? Really?
okay, but you've been enjoying the time out in Thailand, Shaun, and you said you've even managed to get along to the cinema and everything and see a couple of things. So keeping up the end. But just this week, after we've spent the last couple of weeks complaining, Sharon, that you and I don't get any fan mail and that only Shaun gets any fan mail, it turns out that guess what? We do get some fan mail.
That's cool.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't. We do get some fan mail, mostly on YouTube, mostly in the forms of people leaving reviews of our reviews. Reviews of our reviews on YouTube, and it's usually good for Sharon because remember the time when we had someone who got in touch about Sharon's review of Bonfire of Destinies, which is still our most watched video on YouTube. So it's like someone left a review of that, so it's usually good for Sharon, and it's usually abuse for me. So. So going from I don't think it was last week. It might have been last week or the week before when I reviewed The Tourist, the Jamie Dornan TV show.
Yeah.
We had someone called Stella Wynier who just sent a message that said, "Your review is a mess. It's hard to understand where you're going with this. Listen to it. You're not making sense."
Oh no.
Pretty much. And I was like, "Oh, okay, well." To which I just replied, "Well, thank you very much for getting in touch, Stella. Have you watched it yet?" She was like, "Yes, I have. I never had. If I hadn't seen it, your review would have made me left me totally confused and not interested in watching it. I like this series. It kept my interest. I look forward to watching the next episode." So I just said, well, I hope she finds something, probably that Sharon reviews, that she will end up liking. Is what I said. So Sharon, so that was my fan mail, if you can call it that. And Sharon, would you like to hear your?
Now.
No, don't worry. I told you. It's generally good for you. It's love for Shaun. Love that what we get is love for Shaun. Abuse for me, good for Sharon. Because Sharon, your review of The Wheel of Time, we had somebody called David McGarry who actually wanted to get involved with your review, and he was like, and he was talking about is it pronounced the Aja or Aja? You know, the group of not Bene Gesserit people that Rosamund.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, I'm going to go with Aja. He says the red Aja are more like the police, and the green would be the army. There are some animated short stories in the X-ray feature that's on Amazon Prime, which explains some more world concepts, which can be helpful to understand the whole world a little better, or to give you a little extra content. He says content. It might be content or context. I'm not sure. Yeah. He says that, but it looks like he heard what you said about the Wheel of Time, and he just wanted to get involved. Cool. So yeah, so good stuff. So we do get some fan mail. So now let's get.
I couldn't quite work out what the colours meant because I know there's several colours, and I was thinking, I think this one is this. It's like Star Trek crew, isn't it? I was thinking, I think this is red for engineering and
Yes. So David David very helpfully got in touch to try and explain a little bit more about what the colors
good.
meant.
Thank you for that. I'll look that up.
Yes. And I said, especially as Sharon said, reading the books is a bit beyond us at the moment. So thank you very much, David. And now let's just get onto this week, where we shall give you some reviews that I'll probably get abused for, and but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So this week, I think we only have one film in cinema. Even though I looked at this film and I thought, I have a sneaky feeling that Sharon is going to watch this. And so I was thinking I should go watch something else, because if not, we're only going to have one thing to watch on the film. But the dreaded cinema listing time struck again. And the timings didn't work out, and this was the only film I actually could possibly see this week. So I went to see Belfast, which I think, Sharon, you went to see as well.
I went to see Belfast. Yeah. Unlike most weeks, I did have a choice of 3 films.
Whoa!
But this was the one that appealed to me the most. So the next one down, if it's still about next week, I shall see that next week.
What was the other one? I'm trying to remember which film I couldn't.
The other one was Nightmare Alley.
Yes, that was it. That was the film I couldn't. That I couldn't get a good time.
And then the other one was a Journal for Jordan or something.
A Journal for Jordan. Yeah, starring Michael B. Jordan, directed by Denzel Washington.
Yes, that
you're making me feel really sad now. Because I'm really missing the movie, because they're quite limited with what they show. Although it's quite difficult. Most of the things I've seen, I think, well, you've already reviewed. But I mean, there is a Thai film that seems to be really, really popular called Four Kings.
All right, cool.
I might check out that if I've got something next week and the people still aren't back, so I can be loud. Otherwise I have to be like this. So,
this is what I love. I love it. Sean, it's like Sean Harris, international correspondent. Bring us the Thai. Give us what's hot in Thailand. What's hot in Thailand? That would be pretty cool.
Apart from tourists and.
The thing is, one of the things about the cinema there, which is really funny, is all the trailers are in Thai. All the trailers are in Thai with no English subtitles.
What? They're all dubbed into Thai.
And all the adverts are in Thai with no English. And they have the national anthem, and people stand up.
Yeah, you have to stand
up for the national anthem, and they have pictures of like the king going before it all starts. And then they have the showing with the Thai subtitles. So, sometimes they have it dubbed in Thai. So I think that's why they have the different cinemas, is because one's English.
One's the original language, and one of them is dubbed.
Yeah, dubbed. Yeah.
Hey, we have a baby.
Yeah.
Hello, little one, little Cammy. How are you?
Somebody just crawled into. I could call it my podcasting booth, just my office. Someone just crawled into my office, pushed the door open, and everything came around the corner, and was like, and guess what she was asking when she came around, Sean?
What was that?
Like, Where's Sean? Where's Sean?
Hello, Cammy. Hello, mate. Hello, I'm back. I'm in my my Colonel Kurtz gear.
You see, that's Uncle Sean. All right, cool. So in cinema, we have seen Belfast. And I will explain my Grey Pound comment at the beginning of the podcast in a second. And at home, Sharon, you mentioned it last week that you were watching it, and it sounds like you finished watching it.
I finished watching it, all 8 episodes.
Yep.
Of a Mexican drama called Soldados O Zombies.
Soldados O Zombies.
So good. That sounds good. That sounds right up my street. I'm jealous.
You see, the funny thing is, like, Sean, Nightmare Alley, I really want to see that, but I have this sneaky suspicion that Nightmare Alley would be right up your alley, if you excuse the pun, because it looks like the kind of stuff, like, all the feels of Nightmare Alley look like your kind of film. And so Soldados O Zombies, that does sound like your kind of thing, because we figured out that it's the title means soldiers or zombies.
Wow.
Yeah, the title means soldiers or zombies.
I'm looking forward to that one. I have actually watched a series, 12 episodes of a series called The Deuce, which
The Deuce with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that's it, and James Franco. And
about I think it's like prostitution and the porn industry in 70s New York, is it?
Yeah. No, and I know it sounds like that, but it's about it's about New York in that era. So like the early 80s, and it's just all the paraphernalia and the cars and that sort of era. So yeah, I mean, it sounds, when you say about pornography and it's a bar and that, it sounds pretty bad, but there's, you know,
like, not in front of little ears, please.
No. So,
No,
hello,
she's
yeah.
she's still at the point where she doesn't quite that word's too long for her. Okay, and yeah. I saw this a couple of weeks ago. I saw the other thing I saw at home a couple of weeks ago, which I kind of like. I was over Christmas. I saw it. I thought, okay, cool, no problem. I didn't think I would review it because I thought the moment had passed. But now, all of a sudden, this thing is blowing up. Disney have done it again. Disney have managed to make a film that when I originally saw it, I thought, oh, that isn't up to much. And then all of a sudden, a song from that becomes a breakout hit, becomes #1 in the charts. It becomes this whole thing, this whole moment. So I thought, oh, wow. Seeing as we haven't actually reviewed it on the podcast, I might as well review Encanto. So I will do that as well.
Yeah.
But let's
probably. The other thing I watched was Save the Cinema, which was on
that's
Sky.
on my watch list.
Have you watched that as well, Sharon? Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. That's on my watch list.
Right.
I was taken up with Soldados, so I didn't watch like last week.
So same here. Okay, no, I need that. Sorry. Our co-podcast host here is just trying to mess things up. But okay, so let's kick off in cinema as we traditionally do, and let's kick off with Belfast. And Sharon, I'm going to let you explain what this is about while I try and deal with our guests.
Okay, Belfast is a film written and directed by Kenneth Branagh, and I don't know if it's how closely it's based, but it's loosely based on his own childhood experience of growing up in Belfast just when the Troubles first kick off, when there'd been tensions rumbling between Catholics and Protestants, but people were largely living together in community, so they were neighbours, they were side by side. And so the film starts off by, it was a bit like West Side Story in some ways, the original West Side Story film, where your opening shots is you get like this scene of you flying over the city, and so you start off with Belfast, with flying over Belfast and getting the scene of like the Harland and Wolff shipyard. You've got the culture, you've got these old buildings, and you've got like the modern buildings side by side where these sort of two cultures meet. So you can see that this is a place of history and a place of commerce, and it's a vibrant community. And then it focuses in on one very small terrace street. And then as you go from like coloured present, you go into black and white past, 1969. And then you start to see how this community is made up of. So it's basically a woman comes out her front door and just yells out like, "Buddy, your tea's ready." And then this sort of echo is taken up down the street by different people saying, "Buddy, your mum's calling you." And then round the corner, "Your mum wants you home." And so even though he's out of sight, the community, everyone knows him, everyone knows her. And so and then by the time the message gets to him, like 2 streets away, it's like, "Your tea's ready." So he goes running back to his family. And so you see immediately, this is a close-knit community where neighbours not separated one from another. They all know each other. They've all been a part of each other's lives. And this is not a family doesn't raise this child. The community has raised this child. So you very much see it in its context. And then you get drawn into this one particular family, which is mum and dad, played by Jamie Dornan and Katrina Balfe.
Is it Katrina or Katrina?
Katrina, I suppose it's probably Katrina if you...
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then you've got Jamie Dornan's parents, played by Dame Judi Dench and Kieran Hines. And then you've got the 2 sons of the family, played by unknown sort of young actors.
Yeah.
And you then see, as the story unfolds, how Jamie Dornan's character, he works away in London. Because the economy is on a bit of a downturn in Belfast, so he's gone away looking for work. So he spends 2 weeks working away and he comes home every other weekend. And while he's away, these tensions that have been largely under the surface has suddenly erupted in their community, where the local Protestant gang deciding that it's time all the Catholics left. So they have this nothing short of like a mini riot in their own street, where all the Catholic windows have their windows smashed in. There's a firebomb. There's a car set on fire.
Yeah.
And then it's into this context that we're suddenly drawn through the eyes of this young boy. We see most scenes, we see that he is present. So you hear conversations where he's looking through the window, or you see conversations that he's overheard, but we don't see anything that he doesn't see on the whole. So it's looking at this experience through this young boy's eyes of like his world suddenly being very secure, very safe, part of this loving, warm community, is suddenly an unsecure, scary place where scary things happen. So before all these events, the biggest moment in his life was his desire to sit next to the pretty girl in his class. And then suddenly
we've all been there.
Yeah,
we've all been
the
there.
world intrudes. And the world in all its violent horribleness suddenly intrudes on his sort of lovely childhood, really. And then you have this whole uncertainty of, do they stay or do they go? Is the safest thing to go and seek out the opportunities? Or should you stay because that's where you love, where your family is, where your roots are? So that's where the story takes us.
That that's about it. Yeah, I think really well done. I mean, I really liked this. I mean, I think story wise it's a bit slight, and story wise there was a bit where I was wrestling with it and I was going, would this be any different if it was on a Sunday afternoon on ITV? Because story-wise, there isn't really any kind of big crescendo or anything that they move into. But I came to the point where I was like, no. This is a big screen film. This is hands down a big screen film because of I think the cinematic. I love the bit where it does the whole Wizard of Oz from color to black and white. But when it goes to, but you feel like it isn't just somebody trying to be arty here. There is a point to it being in black and white. There's sometimes when you have a film that goes a bit artistic for artistic's sake, but there's a time when I think somebody does an artistic flourish that you straight away go, that makes sense. There is a reason for that. And I think going into black and white, and he backs it up throughout a whole bunch of things. Like it's all about the way this boy is remembering things and the way this boy is seeing things. And I think this is reinforced like in scenes where they go to the cinema or in scenes where they go to watch something on stage, that they reinforce that. And I thought it was really, really good. I think he paints a picture that Kenneth Branagh paints a picture of Belfast at that time that even though you might not be Irish, you might not have grown up in Belfast, it makes you ache. It so makes you ache, and you really understand the pull. You understand why people might not want to live there because things are bad. They keep talking about children being killed in the streets and all that, but at the same time, they also show you why it will be such a pull to leave. And I think because with the mom doesn't want to leave. The dad is thinking maybe we should, and you understand both sides of you understand what's going on. You understand, and I think the fact that pretty much the lead character of this film is the boy Buddy, played by Jude Hill. He's the lead character of the film. I think they've done really well with the child actors. They don't become annoying, even though he's on screen probably more than anybody else. It's really good. And I think the beginning of the film where you described where you have this idyllic scene where everybody's playing in the streets and the way that whole scene goes and then it transitions into the mob coming around the corner is brilliantly done. It is so brilliantly done. And
I think it's funny with child actors now. They seem to be becoming much more professional, don't they? It's almost like they're growing up quicker. You know, when you know, or they're more polished, shall we say, than some child actors of earlier times.
Slightly more natural acting.
That's it. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Because sometimes you can almost see the child going like, okay, I'm acting now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Sharon always puts it well, doesn't she? Sharon puts it in context.
Yeah, so yeah, I really like the film. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that I would there's a film journalist called Helen O'Hara, and she is Northern Irish. And she apparently watched this film with her parents, and they were living in Belfast at the time when the film is set. And she put like a Twitter feed down of comments that her parents made as to how accurate the film is, and it was pretty much like, you know, and she says, yeah, pretty much bang on. And I was kind of like, I like this because it's a bit like with the film Roma that was made. It was made by one of the three amigos, one of the three Mexican. I keep forgetting which one of them it was. It wasn't Guillermo del Toro. I think it was I'm going to go Alejandro Inarritu and then kick myself when I realize that it's wrong and it's actually the other one. But it's about his childhood growing up in the Roma area of Mexico City. And this is kind of similar. It's like, it's about a filmmaker doing a very personal story of his recollection of his childhood. And bearing the fact that I did not know Kenneth Branagh was Irish. Like he's kind of the Irish, like when you actually learn that you're like, what do you mean he's Irish? He doesn't sound Irish. but like Pierce Brosnan, he's Irish. You're like, what are you talking about? He's Irish. He's not Irish. And I really, really loved this film. And there's all these little touches. Like there's a bit involving a packet of detergent.
Yeah.
there's a bit involved in a packet of detergent, and the brand of detergent is the same brand of detergent that we had. Like it was pretty much the number one detergent in Nigeria, and I was kind of like, oh my god, they had that in Ireland, in almost the 70s. Oh, and there were things like that. Even though I'm not Irish and I'm not, they're just sort of like this little grace notes and this little details that made me think, oh yeah, this is great. And so those are my thoughts. Sharon, what were yours?
No, the same. I thought, there's some touches. Again, I wasn't raised in Northern Ireland, but I was raised on the Isle of Wight in the 1970s, which is the 1950s anywhere else. So
some would say today it's still the 1950s in some areas of the island.
But it did remind me of those summers when we would be out in the streets all day, and no one met us in school in those days. We would leave school and we'd be off with our mates, and as long as you're home for tea, that was our big thing. And
I agree totally.
We had to be home before dark.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. That was it. You just wander off for the day. You go off for the day. Be back. Make sure you're back for tea. Make sure that was it. And you could go anywhere and wander around and just get up to mischief. It was in a way, when you were saying about the idyllic childhood, it was quite nice like that, wasn't it? You did have that freedom, and they don't have the freedom now. The kids, parents won't let them go down the road because they're worried that. Yeah, they're going to skip.
But with all childhood, though, the real world does intrude, doesn't it? So for my childhood, I suddenly became aware of the outside world with the Falklands War. That was the big thing that suddenly opened my eyes to world outside of my own thing. And obviously that wasn't on my doorstep, but I knew people in my road whose dads were in the Navy, so it was like, oh,
yeah, you mean the world is not a safe place? That's you mean bad things might happen?
With me, it was Vietnam War was on the telly all the time. As I remember as a kid.
No, it doesn't treat. So it's not what's on your street. And this film is obviously it's on his street, but you do get to that point in childhood when you suddenly become aware of there is a world outside of your safe bubble, basically.
Yeah.
And so I like those touches where he's got this sort of childhood where he's like hanging out with his granddad, and he goes around to see his grandparents after school, and then his uncles and aunts come round, and then they have the family gatherings. It's just like, it's like, I know that world. Yeah, I did hang out with my granddad, but I was of a similar age. I was in my sort of 7 or 8 when I used to sort of see my granddad.
I mean the relationship with the grandparents is one of the great screen grandparent-grandkid relationships. It makes you go, I wish I had that relationship with my granddad, or rather in my case, I wish I'd known my granddad.
I only knew one of my grandparents out of the 4, so I was thinking I do have moments with my granddad, not like that at all, because my granddad was quite old when I was a child, much older than the character in the film. But there's those sort of moments where you can relate to across cultures, you think, you can relate to that childhood, and then the world intruding. And I think they sort of showed in some ways the complexities of the Troubles as well, because we tend to think, looking back, it was like just sectarian, and then the army came in and messed things up. Whereas when you see these first troops arriving, they were like, help them move some furniture, and they were like, there was a few bits of back chat with them, but they weren't the sort of the enemy of the people as though some ways they are portrayed when you have the sort of soldiers in Ireland. So it did. I was reminded of some other films, not that it was derivative in any way, but in some ways it reminded me a little bit like Billy Elliot, which was a story of this young boy, but then you had the miners' strike as a background. So you see in some ways this way you see the soldiers and you see the barricades and you see the conflict there. So there's sort of had a little bit of reminding me of that in a small way, not in a big way.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
What are the accents like? Is it heavy accents, heavy Irish accents, or not too bad?
Pretty much everybody apart from Judi Dench is Irish in the film.
Right. Okay. So, but what I'm saying is because sometimes it can be really, really heavy, can't it? Or,
they're all understandable.
Yeah. If I had no problem hearing, I had no problem understanding anybody. So it's no big deal. So but I'll tell you one thing that I was surprised as to how much it wasn't focusing on the Troubles. I was because I was expecting, especially the way the film kicks off, I was expecting, okay, this is going to be like a documentary thing of why this actually started. Because I have to admit, the Northern Irish conflict is one I do not understand. All my life, when I first saw it, I was like, why? What is going on? How did this start? And even so essentially
1660 is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, I know. It's but it's just kind of like I was surprised that the fact that it went so personal and went so on this family, and this is happening in the background, but it's all about this family. So I think we can, as you can see, we can talk a little bit more and we could probably get a bit spoilerific and talk about our favorite bits, but we're gonna stop and just give a star rating. Personally, for me, Sharon, I think it's a 4 out of 5. Not quite a 5 because there are some bits where I was like, what's that doing there? There's a singing scene that comes out of nowhere. And there's a couple of bits where I'm like, oh, what is it? So I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I would agree. I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think in some points, do you feel like sometimes the pace is slowing down? And as you say, sometimes you're waiting for like a dramatic high point or some sort of catharsis going on. But it doesn't really happen, but you can see why they reach the point they do in the film. Yeah. And it's like this sort of build up, but without a massive So I would say sometimes the pacing felt like a little bit maybe slow, but I think in the style of film it is, that doesn't detract too much. So for me it was a 4 as well.
I would agree with that. All right, cool, good stuff. So 4 stars for Belfast. Because we're doing this on Zoom and we're about to get kicked off. But before we get kicked off, to explain my whole thing about the grey pound not dwindling, because we were talking about how a whole bunch of films, apart from Spider-Man, No Way Home, have not done well over the Christmas period, and how because you expect like something like Ridley Scott's The Last Duel, the people who will be watching this will be of an older persuasion and all that. So I saw this in a cinema in Birmingham, and I was the youngest person in the cinema. Number 1, I was the youngest person in the cinema. Number 2, it is the most packed screen that I have been in years. It was actually difficult to try and find a seat when I had to choose a seat. Trying to find a seat that was like, at least 2 seats away from anybody else. And I was the youngest person. Most of these people looked like they were at least, next to me was probably about 60 years old and stuff. And they all went to watch this film. And that's what made me think, the Grey Pound is alive and well. We just need to get people a film that they'll like, and they will go out of their houses to go see it. So
they're not dead; they're just dormant.
Dormant. So it made me think like, Grey Pound, Silver Dollar, alive and well. You just have to get the right film. It seems that The Last Duel might not have been it, but Belfast looks like it definitely is. If the screen I went to is anything by. Now we're going to invite him back. We're going to invite Shaun back, who, even though he hasn't managed to make it to the cinema to see anything new, he has still kept up his usual beast thing and seen a whole bunch of things on screen. But we have narrowed it down to 2 things you can let us know about it. 2 things you can let us know about. So one of them relates to what we're talking about with Belfast, and something else. So carry on with what you were going to say, Shaun.
Okay. Well, funnily enough, the thing was, I woke up this morning and I put the TV on because I was feeling a bit lazy. It was quite early, and there was The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Now, I'd never seen this film because I'd always thought it always looked from the cover and things that it might have been a bit dull. But that's
and also you don't like Cillian Murphy.
Also there. Well, that's another thing. This is obviously a really early role. That's probably the reason. There's a lot to do with that. But it just jogged my memory about you're talking about Belfast, and this is the early part of the division of Ireland. With the black and tans and I'm sure you must have seen it, haven't you, Sharon?
No, I haven't seen it, but that's about the Easter Rising, isn't it? Is it the Easter Rising in 1916?
Well, it's later than that, because there's but basically the story is there's two brothers, and they decide that they're going to form the IRA. So they got this little, and then the IRA around the country. And then basically they do get their mandate to be governed, but the two brothers fall out because of as the British Army go, should we say, the Irishmen take over the army role. So, and they're saying, oh, we've got this far, we can't let this go and all that. So the two brothers sort of come into a bit of a conflict. And it was really, really interesting, actually, really, really interesting. It's a Ken Loach movie, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was Ken Loach.
Yeah. So, and it's quite brutal. It was like at the start of it where they, the soldiers just turn up in a truck and pull everybody out and say, oh, what are you doing? And they just beat them for no apparent reason, shoot them for no apparent reason, set fire to houses. It's pretty bleak. It's pretty bleak, like a lot of Loachy films. But yeah, it was really, really, it was quite interesting, really. So basically, two stories. These two brothers, they start off, form the resistance, and then one of the brothers becomes sort of part of the new government, and the other brothers, Cillian Murphy, the other brothers, not particularly not particularly happy about it.
So something in the water, something Irish in the water this week.
That's it. It must be. Yeah. It was just one of those ones. It started to watch it. It grabbed me, so I carried on watching it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. And so you said you saw The Deuce.
I did see The Deuce, yeah.
So tell us a little bit. What did you think of The Deuce?
Okay, The Deuce.
Because it's been a couple of years. It's been out a couple of years now.
There's it looks like there's three series, and I've only watched the first one, which is 12 episodes. Terrific titles, absolutely. The intro's really good. They show a bit of previously on The Deuce, and then a little bit extra, and then you get the titles. And it's quite adult themes, but basically it takes place around the 1970s, and New York's sort of becoming a bit more freer to do with adult things.
Yep.
And basically James Franco, he plays two parts in it. He plays two brothers. So he's got like two brothers. One's the owner of this bar, the Deuce, where the sort of, should we say, the pimps and the prostitutes hang out.
Yep.
So, and it all goes on. So then they decide that they're gonna build this other place, which is just basically like a brothel, because it's all very, very stereotypical of like the pimps with the big furry coats. It's like a bunch of like 5 pimps which have got sort of girls around them, and they're all. I mean, it's high quality acting. It's not like a
I love the fact that you're having to keep making excuses for this.
Yeah, making excuses.
So it's like it's really, really great, but there's all these pimps and they have all these women, and but it's good. It's good. I promise you, it's good.
Yeah. It just sounds that way. And I mean, there are some adult bits in it, and there's some nudity in it and things like that. But it's basically the whole story. And then the mob, you got like the mob got involved, and it's just basically. But what I liked about it, what I really liked about what grabbed me, it captures the whole era, the wide lapel, you know what I mean, the 70s.
Well, like the 70s fashion and all that, the bell bottoms.
I mean, there's one guy that looks that I'm sure must be a famous singer or rapper or something who plays one of the. He's got very, very straight hair. So, but I mean, I should have done a bit more research on it. But
straight hair rapper might be Andre 3000, but
yeah. And that's the guy out of Outcast. No, was it called? Did look like him, so I don't know. But
so I've heard a lot about these. Like it was what you said about it's about the time and place. Is about they evoke this time of the 70s New York. But obviously, the lead character is Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, yeah. She's a terrific actress.
Yeah, and for everything I've heard about this is that it's kind of like following her and how her as a woman navigates this whole thing and how she manages to sort of almost carve out a corner of the world for herself, even though she starts off the thing as one of the prostitutes. And
she does.
I've heard a brilliant performance.
Yeah, brilliant performance. I mean, she doesn't want to be. Like you get the pimps that will come and say, "Oh, we will look after you" and all that, and she's like, "No, I don't want to get into that scene." But of course, she gets beaten up and things and all that, and then it ends up into the adult film industry, and so she sort of worms away in there as like a director of the film. So there's he's quite nice, really. He's not really a sleazeball. The guy who's a director of like the movies, the adult movies, she sort of charms her way in. And there's a bit where in the one scene where he can't make it to do the directing, so he's saying, "Oh, you would just as well pack up and go home for the day, girls," and like that. She goes, "No, we can't do that all this." So she directs them all, and she does it really, really more. You know, she sort of says, "Look, you're looking bored." You know what I mean? You're looking bored.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'm assuming it's that's basically that story. But the other story, the other sideline is this James Franco. Because as I say, it's two performances, a bit like Legend, where there's two brothers and they are totally. He does it really, really well. One's like really on the you know, gets into trouble a lot, and the other one's pretty. He says, "No, I'm not getting involved in that rubbish." So, but I mean, I really, really liked it. I'm going to catch up on the other two episodes. I think.
So how many stars would you give season 1?
Season 1, I'd give. Let's just work it through. I probably would give this. Because there were some episodes, like everything, there's some episodes that don't quite grab it. So I'm going to give it I'll give this a 3. I'll give this a 3, but it's watchable. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. Yeah. It's not. I don't know. There's some great performances in it, terrific performances, but it's probably not for everybody. But
well, yeah, I'd imagine.
For being of that era, it just like, and you know. I like period movies, if you can call them period movies now, I guess. Well, I mean, I guess the 1970s is history. Pardon?
Yeah, no, sure. And nowadays, you'd make something that's set in the 90s, that's period. The 90s is not. The 90s is now a period movie.
It would be, I guess.
That's my childhood, but it's now a period movie. Oh my God, what's happening? All right, cool. Thanks a lot for that, Sean. Thanks a lot for that. So now let us quickly move on to Sharon. Soldados O Zombies? Tell us about this.
Soldados O Zombies. It's a Mexican drama, and it's but the central character, you see the story mainly through his eyes, is a Mexican drug lord who has been imprisoned, and at the beginning of the drama, he has an escape has been engineered for him, and he escapes into this sort of compound in the middle of the desert and close to the borderlands. So it's in Mexico, but it's very close. It's in that whole deserty, barren, scrubby part of land, you know, sort of between Texas and Mexico.
Yeah.
And so he is in this sort of compound with his gang around him, and his son is around him. And then the parallel story to this, very close to this area, is where there is a military base where they patrol the border. On the American side, they patrol the border for people who try to cross. And they're in this sort of American base. There is like an army scientist who is trying to develop a super soldier type serum. And he has been experimenting with baby pigs, where he has been injecting these pigs with a drug that should give them, lets them carry on fighting even though they're wounded. It sort of desensitizes them to their injury, so they don't panic if they get injured. They just carry on. Now, anyone who's ever watched any film thinks, yeah, I can see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, this never goes badly. Never.
I can never see any problems with a supercharged, adrenaline-filled, oblivious to pain and all sensation soldier. What could possibly go wrong there?
Yeah.
And the experiment fails, so they then dump these baby pigs, having been injected with this deadly serum, in the desert. They just go, well, let's just dump them. There's nothing wrong with that, surely. What could possibly go wrong there with dumping a contaminated animal? And then these baby pigs aren't dead after all. And then into this, there's a group of highly trained, like SWAT team officers who have gone in to chase down the Mexican drug lord.
Yeah.
And there's something horrible happens when they're in pursuit of this drug lord, and they get infected with this deadly virus, pathogen, whatever. And so the soldados are then infected, but because this is not, they're not killed by this drug, this experimental drug. They are still sentient, so they still remember that they have their orders is to track down this drug lord.
Yeah.
So they are monstral in their behavior, in terms they're very highly aggressive. They get very bitey at times. And they then, by being very bitey, they can then infect people. And so anyone they come across basically becomes their prey, but then they're still sentient, so they still can communicate, and they're still determined to follow orders. So it is like Soldados or Zombies. Are they soldiers or zombies, or are they just a hybrid of both?
Yeah.
And then as the drama continues, then we get this reporter who's reporting on the Mexican, the drug lord. She's the end that gets dragged into it, and they all end up converging at this one point.
Yeah.
And then you've got a DEA officer from America. So you've got all these different points of view where they are slowly drawn together when you get this compound becomes a center of this conflict. So that's probably all I will say. So yeah, you get like mad scientists, the American army in pursuit of these escaped, mini pigs that are infected, and then they find out that this infection has spread into these soldiers, and then other Mexicans trying to trying to get into America. So you then have this sort of like mini army forming of these soldados zombie creatures.
So okay, is it in Spanish or in English?
It's both. The obviously the Americans just speak in English, and then all the people from Mexican side of the border tend to speak Spanish. So you have to set up your computer right, because when I first started watching it, all the English speakers were subtitled, and then none of the Spanish speakers were subtitled.
I love that equality. Yes.
So I swapped it around, so I got the subtitles on the Spanish speakers.
All right.
So
Cool.
so the story is ridiculous. You can't help but be ridiculous. But within the confines of that ridiculousness, you want to have some reality. So a few times you're thinking, this is just, would you really do that?
Yeah.
It's like when there's a scene where they're under peril, you get two people who they're saying, like, they've been fighting off zombies, they've finally made it into a house, into this compound, and then they say, hey, let's split up. It's like, what?
Sounds like you're becoming, you're sort of coming like me then, Sharon.
Yeah, well, there's a few moments where I'm thinking, so why would you do that? Yeah, so if you've been attacked by zombies, you suddenly get into a house, it's like, let's split up. No, you just cover each other's backs, surely.
Yeah.
There's another scene, really uncomfortable scene, where it doesn't quite go as far as like zombie sex, but it is zombie amorousness, which is a bit like, what am I watching? There's the odd moment where you go, what? Uncomfortable.
This was Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah, on Amazon Prime.
I'm just asking for a friend who might want to watch some zombie amorousness. Not for me.
Yes.
But yeah,
there's a few things where there's a Carl moment in it where there's a little boy and they're saying, I'm going to buy you a drone for your birthday, but don't leave the garden, basically. Stay within the garden with your drone that can fly 500 feet in the air, and then we'll disappear across the mountains, but don't go outside the garden. And so
I wonder what happens next.
It's like, I wonder what I'll do. I'll fly my drone. Oh, look, it's going like, oh.
Okay, no, Sean.
That's so good. That's so, yeah.
No, Sean,
I'm loving this.
Yeah, but Sean, this is the thing. You haven't been around for a couple of weeks, so we have had to fill in the Sean, why would you do that gap? Yeah. So if you listen to some of the shows that we've done over the last couple of weeks, there have been a couple of times, I think especially in my review of the 355, in which we do some pretty good Sean impressions, because we're watching this film going, why would you go? No!
And we have said, this is the spirit of Sean.
The spirit of Sean is still with us, because we're still thinking, why would you do that? Okay,
so a few Sean moments in this.
Yeah. Right. So final thing, I mean, because when you were explaining this, I was thinking, oh, okay, this sounds so far so generic, and the only thing that might keep me interested would be the fact that it's Mexican, and I wanted to see a Mexican take on some sort of like American zombie tropes. But final verdict, what would you say? How many stars would you give it?
I would give it there are moments it does drift into 2 territory, but I did, on the whole, I'd say it was sort of elevated to a 3 because it is ridiculous. But there is some things in its favour. It reminded me in some ways of, I could see how this was a progression from some of the ideas of George A. Romero. So if you think of like Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, those sort of latter ones where he was a bit more experimental and he was trying to think, okay, let's take it away from just that, and to give them some intelligence and give them some, and like Land of the Dead to some degree, where you've got these they may be infected, but they haven't lost all their memories. So I thought, yes, I could see how this was like a progression from that sort of thing, rather than a Walking Dead zombie. This is like I would say this was the grandchild of George A. Romero's zombies, rather than a Walking Dead type take on zombies.
Sharon, on that note, you don't suppose you know when the new Walking Dead series is going to come out, do you?
No,
the last bit.
It's imminent. It's imminent, but I don't know when.
Right.
So, as you can guess, I'm totally riveted.
You're just totally off that. So also it's interesting in the fact
my God! Oh, Walking Dead! Please feed it to my eyeballs now.
Oh, bless you.
It's interesting in terms of it sort of takes a different take on the whole why it's, and that's why it has the in there rather than the Soldados O Zombies. So instead of it's like zombie soldiers, it's like the soldiers, or are they?
Good stuff. Okay, cool. So 3 stars.
There's interesting things, but you have to have the odd "don't do that" moment.
Okay. And it sounds like if it's done properly, we might be back in Scream territory, which was reviewed last week. Now, so now we go into a final thing, and we mentioned about the fact that at the moment in the UK charts, We Don't Talk About Bruno is #1. And weirdly enough, this is the first song ever from a Disney film that has been #1 in the charts. I was shocked to find that. I was thinking, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Just Can't Wait to Be King, A Whole New World.
Let It Be?
Under the Sea.
Let It Go. Let It Go.
Yeah, let it go. Let It Go was not #1. No, Let It Go did not get to #1. And We Don't Talk About Bruno is the first song from a Disney film to get to #1. And
I don't know that I know it.
Yeah, well, you won't know it, but apparently if you hang around any young kids, they've latched onto this thing like limpets. And this is from the film Encanto, which was released just before Christmas. It was in cinemas for a short while, and then it was doing that weird thing that's happening a lot more, where you have a film in cinemas and on TV at the same time. So even though it was still in cinemas, you start getting Encanto on Disney Plus. And so I watched this, and a little bit about, and I have to say first and foremost, when I watched the film, I thought We Don't Talk About Bruno is the most singable song. It's the song but I didn't think it was anything to write home about. And then all of a sudden, everybody started singing the song and listening to it online, and now the song is #1 in the charts. There's 4 songs from Encanto in the top 20. I mean, the fact that they're written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, might have something to do with that. Even though I don't think it's his best work, songwriting wise, but I do think We Don't Talk About Bruno is the most singable song out of all them. But the storyline of Encanto, and I think my review of the song We Don't Talk About Bruno is pretty much how I feel about the film, where I think it's probably not the best work, but the whole thing about the film is that there's this family is somewhere in hills in Colombia, and they all have powers. So they have this house that they call the Family Madrigal, and they have this a house that was gifted to them by some sort of magical means, and every member of the family has some sort of superpower. So you have one of the girls, Luisa. She's like really, really strong. One of them can make plants grow. One of them can hear things from across the room. One of them can talk to animals. One of them can control the weather. And essentially think X-Men. Think X-Men and think the X Mansion. It's kind of like an X-Men mansion but in the hills of Colombia. But there is one daughter who is the one who introduces you to everyone, called Mirabelle, who doesn't have any powers. And nobody knows why she doesn't have any powers, because they do this whole thing where it's the way they do it. It's kind of like this whole big festival where the whole town comes together, because a town has sort of formed around this family, because they come there because the family can protect them and the family can give them all these different things through their powers. And they have this whole thing where it's like a quinceañera or something like that, where everybody sort of gets around and they're like, oh my God, yeah, what power are you gonna get? What power are you gonna get? And when that happened with Mirabelle, she didn't get a power. And so throughout her life, she's now she's now a teenager, and it's all about, oh, there's the next time when someone's going to get a power, what's going to happen. And we start realizing that the magic that the Madrigal family has and that they used to help people around them is beginning to fade. And it's all, so it becomes this almost adventure / mystery quest from her point of view, trying to figure out why the magic fades. Because she's the only one in the family who is not defined by what the magic has given them, because the magic didn't give her anything. So all the other members of the family, that the house is falling apart because the house is held about by magic. The strongest daughter, Louisa, who helps the neighbors by taking donkeys out of the river, and she's at one point she's walking along with 5 donkeys on her back and all that kind of stuff. She's beginning to lose the thing. I can't even pull a piano from one room into the other, and it's all about. So it becomes this sort of treatise on whether this family, does it mean, are they more than their powers? It's like, if they have these abilities, are they more than their abilities or anything like that? And I thought it was all right. I thought Encanto was all right. I quite liked it. And I think Disney are doing something where recently with their films, they're trying to go away from the usual cliche, from the, oh, we have a princess and we have a prince who saves her and they all get married at the end and all that. And they're trying to go for some sort of stories that are probably a bit more now, a bit more today. So it's not about a woman being saved by a prince, but it's more about finding out what's inside of you. And the same way with Frozen, it was all about, save yourself. And there is that message within it. As it goes towards the end of the film, I feel like it loses it a bit because there are things that happen that I don't think are well explained. Like, why does that happen? Why does that fix things? Why does that make things worse? Why would you do that to that character? And there's all these that I don't think make particular sense. And I feel like Disney are essentially coasting on the fact that it's Disney, people let it go, if you pardon the pun. It's kind of like, it's like, and so I would give Encanto a 3 out of 5 stars. I do like the fact that it's a different world, so to say. I love the fact that what you're looking at is not same old. That this is actually, I like the fact that what you're looking at is a new area that you haven't really seen in Disney films. You're looking at a new culture that it reminded me a little in some areas of Coco, the Pixar movie Coco, which I think is brilliant. Well, I think Coco is absolutely amazing. And so it reminded me of that in some areas, but all in all, I think it's just one of those things. Disney know what they're doing, and they figured out a way to sort of get into people's minds to make this thing bigger than the sum of its parts. To make I think the cultural phenomenon of Encanto is going to be a bigger deal than the film of Encanto itself. So I'll give Encanto 3 out of 5. Although I will say one thing about Disney that they're doing that I am not too happy about. So Encanto got released in cinemas and all that, and they've done this whole thing where it seems as if they've stopped releasing Pixar movies, because obviously Disney owns Pixar, even though it's a different studio. They stopped releasing Pixar movies in cinemas. They only release Pixar movies on Disney Plus, but they release the Disney animated films in cinemas. And because there's a film called Turning Red that's about a girl of, I believe from the trailers and everything, she's of Chinese origin. And it's the first Pixar movie that's been directed by a woman and directed by a Chinese woman and it's all about this girl, and whenever she experiences heightened emotion, she turns into a red panda. And this film, as I've been expecting this one for years, and it had a cinema release date, and then Disney pulled it back and said, "Oh no, it's not going to be in cinemas anymore. This Pixar movie is going to be on Disney Plus." And I'm like, to be honest, I was looking forward to this film a lot more than Encanto. Why are you pushing that? So you're pushing the Disney animated stuff into cinemas, and you're taking all the Pixar stuff and putting it on Disney Plus, and I just don't like it. I don't like it. There's something going on there. There's probably some algorithm. There's probably some business thing. With Disney, it's going to come down to money. That's the reason why they've done it. But it makes me feel uncomfortable. But anyway, 3 stars for Encanto. That's where I will land. 3 stars for Encanto. All right. And I don't know. We don't talk about Bruno. I'll say we don't talk about Bruno is the best song in the film. Right. So having done all that, not talking about Bruno, I don't. With only one film at cinema this week, I don't think it's worth it talking of. Even though I think if we did an average cinema,
well, if you did the average, yeah, cinema would still win on its own.
Yeah, cinema would still win. Like Belfast got 4, and nothing else at home got
Nothing
3.
else did.
So,
I mean, I shall make a concerted effort to find something at the cinemas and hopefully we can.
Yeah, if you're able to join us next week, I mean, I'm going to try and see Nightmare Alley, and I think this is
Nightmare Alley.
Yeah,
I'll have to see what's released, because when was Kingsman released over there?
Before Christmas.
Was it? Yeah. See, it was after Christmas here. It was after.
Oh no, actually no, it was Boxing Day. It was Boxing Day.
Oh, was it? Yeah. I
saw it a good 2 or 3 weeks. It's 2 or 3 films ago, anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny. I over here, I thought they might have released them earlier, but I mean, what I'll have to do is look at release dates and stuff. So
yeah, COVID's messing everything up. But I'll tell you one thing, right? With Nightmare Alley, I think I'm actually more looking forward to what you think of the film than I am of watching the film myself.
Right. I wonder. I'll check that. If it's on, I'll make a point of going to see that one.
All right. Cool. Good stuff. All right.
There. It's lovely to be back, right?
Yeah, nice to see you.
It is great to have you back, Sharon. Great to have you back, Sharon. So until next week, when we'll figure out what it is that we can watch, it is a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
So good to hear Sharon say that. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.